Now let's start with errors which you can typically avoid. For example, simple syntax errors. Let's say you simply forgot to close your array here. Now right away, the IDE yells at us basically. You see we got the red squiggly line here, I got a red mark here on the right in the scroll bar, and the file itself also turned red. Here on the left in the Explorer, it's now red. And this indicates that there is something wrong which the IDE detected right away. You can then always hover over the red squiggly lines to get a description of the problem, and here you see expression or comma expected. Now to be honest, that's not the best error message because it doesn't really describe the problem here, that a closing square bracket is missing. Nonetheless, you quickly see that something is wrong here, and trivial errors like this of course can be easily fixed because you should quickly see that, yeah, we got a missing square bracket here. Now that might sound dumb, but it's easy to mistype or to accidentally delete something, and therefore having a look at what your IDE tells you is really a great idea and something you should do. Now sometimes you also got errors which don't really show up here in the IDE. For example, if I try to call parse here like this is not a built-in function actually, and the IDE knows that it's not built into JavaScript, but maybe it's a function defined by us, maybe in another file. Therefore, the IDE here doesn't yell at me because it doesn't know whether I might have defined a function called parse in another file. For example, here I'm also calling output result, which is not defined in this file, and which also is not a default JavaScript function, but since I have it defined in vendor.js, this will work. So it would be bad if the IDE would complain about this line. It's the same here now. Now, of course, this is not built in though, but maybe I mistyped and therefore used this, or I had a function named parse in the past, I deleted it and forgot to update this code. So this is code which works in the IDE, but it will not work here. If I reload this page and I try to add, you see, no matter how hard I press my buttons, nothing happens here. In such a case, it's always a great idea to open the developer tools, and my recommendation would be that you do this in incognito mode so that no browser extensions you might have installed can interfere here, because they might also change something on the page or run some scripts which might show up in your developer tools even though they're not directly related to your code. So open the developer tools here under View, Developer, Developer Tools, or with the shortcut you see there. And there you should always go to the console first, because it's here where you'll find potential error messages. And indeed, here you see I got error messages regarding parse not being defined. Now that's the part I meant with reading the error messages. I could now go into panic mode because there's so much red here, but if we just have a look at the error message, it's pretty clear what the problem is. Parse is not defined, okay. And we even see where this was called. It was called in the getUserNumberInput function, which we find in app.js, and there, this is the line number 7. The error also is stemming from line number 7. And then, if that is not helpful to us, we see that it was called in getUserNumberInput, which in turn happened because this add event here on our button basically triggered. And that was set up in line number 33. Now we can even click here, and we're taken right to the source code here in the developer tools. So here under the sources tab, we now see the problematic source code. And since this is the code as it was executed by the browser, so at runtime, the browser knows that indeed here parse is not defined. The IDE can't know that because it doesn't know which scripts we might be loading, potentially from other servers and so on. But the browser totally knows what's available at this point of time, and it knows there is no built-in parse function, and there also is no code written by me or by some other third party which I added that would add a parse function. Therefore, the browser knows parse does not exist. And now we can have a look at our code and analyze what went wrong here. Did we expect to write a parse function on our own? Well, maybe we should do so now. Maybe we have a parse function, but it's called parse input and we therefore need to rename it. Or, as it's the case here, we're looking for the parse in function. So this is how we can narrow down the issue and fix it with the help of the error message we're getting.